Tell us about yourself and your teaching experience.
I have been teaching mathematics for 6 years at the high school level, covering grades 9 through 12. I specialize in algebra, geometry, and pre-calculus. My teaching philosophy is to build a strong conceptual understanding first, then gradually develop problem-solving and application skills. I incorporate technology, group discussions, and real-life examples to make math engaging. For example, I use sports statistics to explain averages and probability, helping students see math in everyday life.
How would you describe your teaching style?
My teaching style is student-centered and interactive. I begin by assessing students, prior knowledge, and then introduce concepts with concrete examples. I use visual aids, collaborative activities, and real-world applications to engage students. I also differentiate instruction to meet the needs of all learners, offering additional support for struggling students and enrichment for advanced learners. For instance, I once used a project where students created their own real-world word problems, which improved both creativity and comprehension.
How do you make math engaging for students who struggle?
I focus on making abstract concepts tangible. For fractions, I might use measuring cups or pizza slices. For algebra, I use balanced scales to demonstrate equations. I scaffold learning into small steps, provide extra practice in small groups, and celebrate small successes to build confidence. For example, one of my students improved from failing to excelling in algebra within 1 semester through consistent personalized support.
How do you handle different learning styles in your classroom?
Asterisk. I incorporate visual, auditory, and kinesthetic strategies. Visual learners, charts, diagrams, videos. Auditory learners, class discussions, storytelling. Kinesthetic learners, hands-on manipulatives, and interactive exercises. I also use differentiated assignments. For example, in a geometry lesson, some students worked on drawing and measuring shapes physically, while others solved conceptual problems or explored real-world applications of the concepts.
How do you motivate students who dislike math?
I relate math to their interests. For a student who loved basketball, I used game statistics to explain averages and percentages. I also focus on small achievements to build confidence and create a supportive classroom where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities. Over time, this approach turns fear into curiosity.
How do you teach a difficult concept like algebra or calculus?
I start with concrete examples. For algebra, I use balance scales to show the idea of equality in equations. For calculus, I connect derivatives to speed and motion in daily life. I also encourage students to explain their reasoning verbally or in writing, which helps me identify misconceptions and strengthens their understanding.
How do you integrate technology in your teaching?
I use Desmos and GeoGebra to help students visualize functions and graphs. Online platforms like Kahoot or Quizizz make practice interactive and competitive. Graphing calculators allow exploration of complex problems. Technology not only enhances understanding, but also engages students who struggle with traditional instruction.
How do you prepare lesson plans?
I start by reviewing curriculum standards and identifying learning objectives. I plan activities that address different learning styles, include real-life applications, and incorporate formative assessments. I allocate time for practice, reflection, and review to ensure mastery. For example, my lesson on quadratic functions included a visual demonstration, guided problem solving, and a mini project applying quadratics to projectile motion.
How do you assess student understanding?
Asterisk. I use a mix of formative and summative assessments. Formative, exit tickets, short quizzes, class participation, oral questioning. Summative, unit tests, projects, presentations. I also encourage students to explain their reasoning, which reveals misconceptions and allows me to adjust instruction accordingly.
How do you support students preparing for standardized tests?
I provide practice tests to familiarize students with the format, teach test-taking strategies, and identify common errors. I also assign targeted exercises to strengthen weak areas. For example, I help students prepare for SAT Math by combining timed practice, review sessions, and strategy discussions, resulting in improved scores.
How do you manage classroom behavior?
I set clear rules and expectations on the first day and maintain consistency. I use positive reinforcement and address issues calmly and privately. Engaging lessons minimize disruptions. For instance, when students are fully engaged in problem-solving activities, behavioral issues rarely arise.
How do you handle disruptive students during lessons?
I redirect behavior with engaging activities or assign responsibilities. If necessary, I speak privately with the student to understand the cause and develop a solution together. Maintaining calm and fairness ensures the rest of the class remains focused.
What would you do if a student consistently performs poorly despite your help?
I would first identify the barriers, gaps in prior knowledge, learning disabilities, or lack of motivation. Then, I'd create a personalized support plan, including tutoring sessions, peer mentoring, and modified assignments. I'd maintain communication with parents and colleagues to provide a consistent support system. This multifaceted approach has helped struggling students improve significantly in my previous classes.
How would you teach a class with mixed abilities?
I differentiate instruction with tiered tasks and flexible grouping. Advanced students work on challenging problems, while others receive extra support. Peer tutoring and collaborative projects allow students to learn from each other. For example, during a geometry project, students with stronger skills helped peers construct accurate models, reinforcing their own understanding while supporting classmates.
How do you encourage problem solving and critical thinking in math?
I assign open-ended problems and real-world scenarios that require multiple approaches. I encourage students to discuss reasoning and alternative solutions. For example, I ask students to design a small business budget project using linear equations, which strengthened analytical and creative thinking skills.
Why should we hire you as a math teacher?
I bring both a strong foundation in mathematics and a passion for teaching. I focus on conceptual understanding, problem solving, and student confidence. I aim to create a classroom where students not only succeed academically, but also develop a positive attitude toward math, seeing it as a useful and engaging tool for life. My experience with differentiated instruction, technology integration, and real-life applications makes me well-suited to meet the needs of diverse learners.
Why did you choose to become a math teacher?
I love mathematics for its logic and problem-solving nature, and I enjoy helping students discover that same enjoyment. I became a teacher to inspire confidence in students, showing them that math is not just formulas, but a tool to understand and navigate the world.
How do you continue your professional development in math teaching?
I attend workshops, participate in webinars, and collaborate with other math teachers to learn new teaching strategies. I also follow research in math education to integrate evidence-based practices into my lessons. For example, I recently learned about using gamification to increase engagement in algebra classes.
How do you handle pressure to meet curriculum standards while ensuring understanding?
I balance curriculum requirements with conceptual learning by integrating standards into engaging lessons. For example, I teach algebraic formulas through real-life projects, which ensures students meet standards while understanding the reasoning behind concepts.
How do you inspire a love of math in students?
I use real-world applications, puzzles, and games to make math enjoyable. For instance, I organize math competitions and problem-solving challenges, which foster excitement and a sense of accomplishment. I also highlight the relevance of math in careers and daily life.